Sea of Remnants scored the number 3 spot on my top 5 most anticipated gacha games of 2026. Once in a while, you see a game that has such a unique style of presentation and concept that you have to stop and just go, alright, what is this? I gotta check this out. I had the pleasure of participating in its alpha test for the past week or so to go through all of its features and get a taste of what kind of experience it has to offer. The best way I can describe Sea of Remnants is that it's an ocean fantasy open world RPG with many different systems and styles of gameplay. The most striking aspect is the open sea exploration and how each island offers something different, with oceanic navigation, turn-based combat, and a degree of side activities I don't see often in mobile games. So for full disclosure, this video is sponsored by Joker Studio. The reason is that I have a personal interest in playing this game, and I will go over the general concept and the game's systems as a form of introduction. When the game eventually releases, I will be doing an independent review on it. For now, I'll go through some of its designs and ideas to give you a taste of what's to come. And of course, as this is a closed technical test, any information shown in this video is subject to change when the game moves closer to the official release. So let's take a look at what the game has to offer. The intro begins with you, a mysterious sailor that washed ashore after being lost drifting in the sea. You wake up rescued by a doctor and are told that you're on the island of Warptopia, and the first to awake before your travel companion. But unfortunately, the game pulls the amnesia trope and you're unable to remember what you were doing previously. It's then that your new adventure begins and you're free to roam around town, meeting people to get your bearings. You're then introduced to the character creation, in which you have basically full control over your body frame, clothing, and accessories. The immediate thing that would likely jump out at you is the very unique art style the game has. The puppet folk, as they're called, have this wooden puppet look that's vastly different from a lot of the gacha games I've covered on the channel. Plus, the game did state that there will be new cosmetics you can unlock later. Going around town, you can talk to NPCs with their own unique profiles, partake in many side activities, many that are quite in theme of being a sailor. There's a drinking minigame, bar fights, and even their own themed mahjong. It's so expansive to the point where you can actually spectate the game play out from each of the 4 players' perspectives. I actually know how to play a little bit of mahjong, though I can see the rules this version uses are a little different. There's also a side mode that involves raising capital for an investment venture, as well as a minigame where you wave a sign to advertise a business. While in town, you can also check the profiles of every NPC you meet, and if you bump into them, they'll actually respond in unique ways. You meet a mysterious woman in the tavern who looks eerily similar to the person you washed ashore with, so maybe she will be the one to uncover the protagonist's past. She introduces herself under the alias RS. Throughout the time I spent with the story, there's quite a bit of chemistry and interesting dynamic between you two. I do think the English translations got some ways to go, though I got the general concept of the story they want to tell down. You roam the seas chasing down clues to uncover who you really are, and along the way recruit other members to your party. When you leave Warptopia, that's considered as a voyage, as until you return, your loot and upgrades can't fully be cashed in, so it sort of works as a semi-roguelike gameplay loop, just with a lot of different elements. When you sail into the unknown waters, that's when you prepare your vessel and crew. The naval system has a variety of ways for customization. You can assemble parts for your vessel, perform upgrades with in-game materials, and of course engage in combat with other vessels or monsters that lurk in the ocean when you're sailing. The sailing physics, atmosphere when raining, and effects look oddly detailed for a game that can be run on a phone. On the surface, the combat works like a typical turn-based brawler. You have skills that can be used per turn, a turn order, an ultimate that can charge up faster when you perform certain actions and can be used at any time even when the enemy is acting, and the boost point system that allows you to power up your next move by spending this enhancement dice currency. When an enemy's weakness is exposed, you have to roll a number equal to or higher than what's indicated to act a second time. You can spend up to 3 dice points to roll up to 3 dice. 1 dice point is replenished naturally per turn, but if the number displays an 8 or something, then you'll have to roll all 3 dice to have a decent shot at exceeding the 8. When you succeed, you get an additional action, and you can even chain it again to act a 3rd time, but the dice point requirement will typically go up. This basically becomes a risk versus reward system where you have to evaluate how many dice you want to roll to try to chain your attacks. If you break their stance, the enemy also takes a big chunk of damage. You have an attack skill when exploring, and when you initiate combat, there will be a check to see if you roll a number that's equal to or higher than indicated. And upon being successful, you'll launch a powerful move going into the battle. It works basically the same way as the dice system. If you made the first strike but didn't exceed at the check, you'll still get to go first, just without any advantages. If you exceed a level threshold when roaming the world, you can instantly win against fodder enemies that are way lower level than you. So I did think that was a good touch to add it this early into the game's development. Now, contrary to traditional open world games with a gacha model, you don't actually get XP books or artifacts to level up your crewmates. Instead, when exploring on land or sea, you'll gather rare materials that merchants in town will want to trade off of you. In return, you get other useful resources that are useful in account progression. There's a skill tree for every crewmate that unlocks stat boosts and passive abilities. And for breaking past certain limits, you also need specific loot drops from exploring the open world. In a way, you're encouraged to explore the land and find these treasures to bring back in order to make your account stronger. During the voyage, you can loot certain drops from the world, and this is how you can get gear you can equip on your characters. To my surprise, there's actually quite a large variety of gear you can find, with all sorts of effects. You can also select different buffs and even additional skills for your combatants. It looks like each unit can have 2 basic skills, and finding these new skills when exploring can be used to replace the one they started with. When you get enough buffs that match a certain class the unit has, then you can ascend them past a certain level cap. Now, the English translation is not done quite well yet, so the wording can get a little confusing. The biggest difference and selling point I can see here is that the open sea exploration is tied to your account progression, both in unlocking more features and making your unit stronger. I tried out a decent amount of the characters provided in-game, so there's roles that each can perform, like if they're supposed to defend, heal, or just survive the encounter. The combat is also where the unique art style shines. This is primarily the reason why it placed in my most anticipated list for this year, as it's a far cry from the usual anime style a lot of gacha games go for. With these stylized comic effects, ink painting CG cutscenes, and the high detailed terrain textures. Going forward, I would like to see a more accurate English translation and maybe a minor overhaul to naval combat, as I feel like this aspect of the game has more potential. And I'd say it's one of the standouts among other games in this genre. I tried out a good chunk of the characters and used this one for the time I spent with the game, where I had a good amount of success. I find games like this work the best when you're set loose to do whatever you want in the open world. While you can go to the major islands to progress the main campaign, you'll often see a lot of smaller islands scattered around the world, and visiting them will often introduce you to a side quest to uncover some kind of hidden treasure. You can lift the fog, enshrouding the islands, by climbing these towers and ringing the bells on top, and there are mini games you can do for more loot. One of the more interesting mechanics I saw was the campfire. These serve as the teleport waypoints, but also double as a hub for you to heal your party or gear up your supplies. There's an animation where your party members will actually sit around the campfire. Then, you can either grill barbecue skewers to save for later, brew potions and medicine, or learn shanties that will give further boosts to someone. There's a small minigame where you can choose up to 3 items to put on your skewer that you gather from just exploring and cooking them over the fire. The same goes for the potion brewing part, because this game also has an affliction system where your characters can get sick. I'm not sure to what degree this would impact you in the final version, as I only got one during the time I played, where this character would do less damage to a certain type of enemies. During this technical test, I didn't see anything in terms of gacha rates or its rules, although it's likely that the game will have a gacha model, considering that there are 2 rarities of characters, silver and black vouchers. I'm not too sure if there's going to be a big power gap between the 2 rarities, or there are any striking differences, but I do anticipate that it's either going to be monetized through gacha mechanics or premium cosmetics. For this test version, every player got the character straight in the mail, so you can play with whoever you want for now. If you ask me, I would say the most unique aspects of Sea of Remnants I've seen so far would have to be game progression. Tying open world exploration to how you level up and make your unit stronger is not something I've seen before in gacha games. We'll have to see if this system gets more fleshed out for the release though. In any case, if this video got you interested in Sea of Remnants, use the link in the description to wishlist the game on Steam or pre-register on their website if you're on PC. But the game will be available on mobile devices and even consoles when it launches. Again, thank you to Joker Studio for sponsoring this video, but I do have a personal interest in the game, and I will be checking out the game on day 1 at launch. And of course, as always, thank you for tuning in, and always remember, have fun out there.